Hey everyone! Okay, so I'm gonna wait for Meg to join us, but in the meantime, today's live is about consumerism, consuming Instagram. And like I shared in stories, if you're on here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's everywhere, all the time, constantly in our IG stories, in our feed, lots of materialism and lots of constant shopping and consumerism. So here's Meg. Hold tight. I'm so happy to see that so many of you are able to join us. It's going to be a great chat. Meg's going to be here in just a second. Hi.
Hello.
How are you, friend?
I'm good. Okay. We did it. No technical
Okay.
difficulties. I didn't catch what you were saying, so just keep going.
Well, I just kind of wanted to just start chatting initially and just say that today we're going to be talking about, you came up with this great tagline, consumerism, consuming Instagram. It feels like on a platform that we used to get on to see our friends' babies, now we're being sold everything from skincare to t-shirts. So it just feels like it's everywhere all the time, inescapable.
Yeah.
And we have, as much as we, and I say that as someone who just posted a post about fall fashion finds this morning. So we're here to say that this is a journey of awareness that we are beginning. We don't have it all figured out. We don't do everything right. We're not even sure what the future holds as far as this this endeavor is concerned. But we know that we're dipping our toe in and wanting to learn more, and we want to, take our community along with us on the journey. So
and I think I was talking to a new friend today, and she used this. I was telling her about how we love fashion and we love style and it's fun, and how do we convey that you can and enjoy the superficial things, but also really care about deeper issues. And I love what she said. She used Emily Holmes, who does the royal coverage. She said, team both, right? That you can be both. And I was like, I love that. That is so true, because you can have both dimensions to you as a person. But yeah, so we have just noticed, and we've been talking about, as Meg and Claire has grown, we've been talking about, do we want to, how can we do that? How can we do that, but also stay true to who we are and be, some of our mission here is to have authentic conversations and promote awareness around some things. And how does that correlate with sharing style?
Right. That's something that has been sort of an internal struggle, for lack of a better phrase, that I have had, because as many of you know, we share, especially recently, we've been sharing a lot of fashion finds and style posts, and we love doing them. They're fun for us. They're creative. Our community seems to really like them and respond really well when we do them. So of course that makes us want to do them more. But for me personally, because I'm not a passionate shopper, someone who buys a lot of clothes, I have been struggling. I really love doing this and it's fun, just like picking up a style magazine and looking at it. But at the same time, I feel like I have felt like I'm participating in this runaway train on Instagram that is just buy. You need more. What you have isn't enough. That's not in style. Get rid, and I really, there's a push-pull. And one of the reasons we started the style sessions was with the hope to style things that we already have. And we will continue to do that, meaning a striped shirt or a button down or a blazer or whatever. So that's kind of where our heart is, and where our, what is that called? Not instincts, but our intentions.
One of the, So I had this moment like 2 or 3 days ago, and I've been really busy with my other business and kids and all that, and I haven't been sharing as much. And I had this moment a couple days ago where I was like, I don't have anything to share because I haven't bought anything. And I was like, it kind of like took me aback, and I was like, hold up, wait. Like, that is not why we started this account. Not want to fall, neither one of us want to fall down that rabbit hole. And it just really kind of like took me by surprise. And are you there? Okay. It just kind of took me by surprise that thinking had soaked into my subconscious. And so it just got me thinking. And then the other thing, you and I both have been following Carla Reed's journey with getting away from fast fashion. She's a big influencer that I really admire her style, and she does great try-ons. But she's getting away from fast fashion, and she is moving into the slow fashion and sustainability and ethical fashion. And she has been like taking us along in her journey and teaching us along the way. And so Claire and I both have talked about this a lot, and she's just really inspired us. And then there's another influencer, What Kate Finds, and she's been doing the same thing. She has a great highlight on sustainability. And so I said this on stories the other day, but it's like, once you know, you can't unknow. And then you have to decide, how am I going to make a change? What could I do different? What could I do better? And I think that that's kind of where we're at right now is, you know, we're learning, and then we're evaluating how we can do better.
Right. And the purpose of this live, and I was sharing this with, I'm just going to jump right in and say, when I was getting my hair cut, and I was sharing real briefly, I was doing some reading. I was like, oh, I'm reading about, you know, fast fashion and that kind of stuff. And my hairdresser was like, I mentioned about how much water it takes to make a cotton t-shirt and all this kind of stuff. She's like, oh, like, so sustainable fashion, meaning bamboo t-shirts? And I'm like, well, yes, because that is a good thing. But the purpose of what I'm trying to do, and what Meg and I are trying to do, is talk about sustainability in things that we can do now. Not like, throw out your closet, get rid of all of it. More like, what can we do? The steps that we're going to share with you and the ideas that we're going to share with you in this 5 and 15 are attainable things that some of which don't cost you money. They're just lifestyle changes or their mentality changes, just awareness. So it's not about get rid of it all, nothing's right, you know, stop shopping everywhere you love. We're going to talk about things that you can do that are just free steps, things that are cost nothing and are steps in the right direction. So the other thing we wanted to cover is, okay, so we talked about like the obsessive consumerism, and I want to touch on real briefly something that I think is really dangerous in the Instagram world, and that I've become pretty passionate about. It's the psychology behind what's happening with Instagram influencers and what we're thinking and seeing. So previous to Instagram being a place that was like was a commodities and sharing and selling things, when products were sold, they were, as you know, and they still are, promoted by, for example, like a celebrity. So it'd be like George Clooney with Nespresso, or who's always with Neutrogena, Jennifer Aniston or Jennifer Garner. People who, like people that we recognize, people that we know, people that we like, people who are familiar. But at the end of the day, they were still celebrities. They were still people that we, you know, there was a divide between who they are and who we are. And so one of the things I think is really fascinating that I've been reading about is the psychology behind the distorted reality that's occurring. So when you follow an influencer and they're sharing lots of products with you, I'm sure many of you follow them, swipe up for this, I just found this, you know, I bought this in every color. What's happening is you have perceived them as peers. You've gravitated to them as an influencer, someone you follow, because you're similar to them in some way. They're a stay-at-home mom, they're a young working gal who's in corporate America, and you, from a psychological standpoint, perceive them as a peer. Well, there's a distorted reality because what they're selling you is not anything close to what you in your position need in reality. So you know, they're showing you 6 different items from said shop, but the reality is they're all going back because it's a try-on session, or they were sent them for free. So it isn't real life, but because we watch them and we're ingrained in their daily life, and we see their husband and their kids and their home and their vacation and their no makeup with their coffee, we think they're a friend. Therefore, we think they're similar to us. And so I think that's a really dangerous thing that's occurring in the subconscious. And I didn't even really think about it like that until it was described as that. It is a distorted reality.
It's actually so simple, but yet so revolutionary to think of these people of like, this is a business for them. This is a business. Right. This is not them going shopping at Target and picking up one shirt twice a month. This is them going to Target and having a business budget to buy things, and probably return a lot of them and show them to you. But in your mind, you're thinking, this person has 5 blazers in different colors, and I need that too. And it's very and she's a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just kind of wanted to like open with that thought.
Right. And that's what we're noticing, and that's what like has been bothering us. And then, you know, now that we're sharing fashion finds, it's like we need to be conscious consumers and conscious promoters of what we like or what we're using, and have a realistic conversation of the money we spend, where we buy things, are we returning things? That's a conversation that should be transparent on this platform, in my opinion.
Right. I completely agree.
So all of that has kind of like, all of those things have kind of correlated into this place that Claire and I are at right now, where we are being drawn to this path of sustainable fashion and slow fashion and ethical fashion, and we are learning about it. And so we kind of came up with 5. This is really introductory. We don't want you guys to think we are experts, because we're not. We are learning, and we're just going to take you along in this journey of, like, you know, to borrow a really popular term right now, getting woke, you know, about sustainable fashion and fast fashion. So you want to start out with number 1?
Okay, so number 1 is amount, and it is about reevaluating and stop over consuming. So what we're doing, and what we suggest is a great place to start, is evaluating your closet. What do you have? What do you already own? What do you actually wear out of what you own? And what do you need? So kind of the first step to living consciously is to actually be aware of your surroundings. So, and in conjunction with that, we really need to stop over consuming, stop purchasing until we're really aware of what we actually have. And so that's numero uno. So one way that I do this, and if you want to share one way that you do, is what you have. If you have multiple of one thing, you should maybe consider not purchasing any more of that, and do kind of like an evaluation. Like, I have 6 of these, I don't need any more. I don't wear these 4, I'm going to donate that, you know, kind of just going through and doing an evaluation. What I like to do is I keep my closet, like when I'm kind of getting into a new season, I'll take clothes that I'm reaching for and I'll keep them in one section. So even though my closet is organized by color and by type of item, I'll keep a little section where I'll just keep putting the things back that I'm wearing regularly. So by the end of the season, I'll be like, you know, I really didn't wear these 6 things. They're not in the area of the things that I'm wearing. I know that I can move on from them, donate them, you know, or whatever. So numero uno is evaluating what you have and what you need. And a great way to also, once you've done that, is there will be things in your closet that your closet needs, gaps in your closet. Keeping a note in your phone, like in the notes section, of the things that you do need. Like if you do need a black turtleneck, if you do need a fresh white button down because yours is tired, keep the things that you need, a running list of what you need, so that when you are, you know, when you are out and about shopping, or if you are on Instagram, you won't impulse buy things. You can always reference the list. Oh yeah, I did need a pair of black denim. Okay, so that's in alignment with what I need. So I feel, I feel good about purchasing that. So that's number one, evaluating. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, and taking stock in your closet. I know for me, like, it's hard because I live in the city. I don't have any storage. So I have like spring, summer, and then I put it away, and I have fall, winter. And there's absolutely, I don't even have my fall and winter stuff out yet. So there's really not, unless it's something I know I don't have, there's no reason for me to be buying fall or winter stuff right now, because I pulled out anything that I haven't seen in 6 months. I don't really even remember what's in there after 6 months. Right. So it's just like being aware and just overall buying less, and it's not about like throwing out all that you have right now and then now going and buying all things eco-friendly and sustainable. Like, that's not really sustainable, really, because you're throwing out all the stuff that you have. You got to use what you have. But I think that's good for the amount. I think that's just a really quick overview of the easiest way to start this journey, and this path is just to stop buying so much. Yeah,
totally. So our second is fabric.
For number 2, I was gonna go into the fabric content, and like starting to really pay attention to fabric. This is something that Carla Reed, who I mentioned before, has really taught me through her journey, is that how fabric is made and what it's made out of really matters. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of it right now. We'll probably do a more detailed live about like eco-friendly things and sustainability. But the fabric content matters, like natural fibers, not synthetics, because synthetics are produced in a not eco-friendly way at all. It's basically like fossil fuels. I mean, it's a man-made product, versus natural fibers like cotton and wool and, things like that will naturally break down and won't, be here 200 years after you have left the earth. So I've been paying attention more to fabric content. And then within that realm, I have realized certain fabrics that I just don't like wearing. Like, I will buy, and usually they're polyester blend, or like a high polyester blend, which is like that silky fabric that doesn't breathe at all. And I will buy that because like, oh, that's a beautiful print on that shirt. And then I will wear it like one time and I will never reach for it again, because it's not soft. It's not breathable. And so that is not being sustainable or a conscious consumer when you are consuming a item that you're going to wear one time and then you're going to donate. And like, if you donate it, that's like a whole nother ball of wax. Is like, are they really being donated and used, or are they just being burned and disposed of? Like, that's a whole nother conversation. So that's one thing I've started really doing, is when I am shopping, I am looking at the fabric content, which I had never done that before. That, like, that's a whole nother conversation. So that's one thing I've started really doing, is when I am shopping, I am looking at the fabric content, which I had never done that before.
Right. Because, and you broke up for just a second, so you probably touched on this, but yeah, like, you want to pick things that you like and that feel good, but that also will go back to the earth, because not only is that better for the second half of the garment's clothing or the garment's life, but it's also better for the production of it. Meaning, if it's not produced with synthetic, that's a pro as far as the environment's concerned. And if it's not made of synthetics and it's made of natural fibers, it will die the way something naturally should, which is going back to the earth. So it's a win-win picking fabrics that are, and Carla's talked a lot about this, and like you said, we're still learning, but we're taking baby steps to kind of understand. But in general, you can start by steering clear of synthetics when it comes to most clothing. Maybe I would say outerwear and scarves are exceptions for that, but like most shirts and tops. Okay, anything else you want to touch on with that?
Nope, just keep it concise.
So number 3 is the socially conscious humanitarian side of this conversation, which is like kind of the abstract, uncomfortable part of sustainable clothing, because we can't see it, we don't hear about it, we don't, it's only what you have to dig to find what that part of that is. And so what I'm talking about is the factories that produce the bulk of the clothing that we wear. So the majority of factory workers are young girls under the age of 18. They're in places like Bangladesh and Thailand and also like South and Central America. And they are not getting paid a wage that they can live in a healthy, normal way where they live. Their working conditions are terrible. I started doing a little bit of research this week on and listening to people who've worked in that industry and reading articles about it and the chemicals, the environment. For example, I'm sure many of you remember I think it was 2013, there was a factory in, I think it was in Indonesia, that collapsed and thousands of people died, or I think or 1,500 people died, and there were like 2 survivors. And the other thing that I found out, so we kind of like know a little bit about that if you are, somewhat reading and being aware. But one thing that I learned that was new that I was never aware of before is that a lot of the workers in the garment industry are undocumented, meaning their lives don't exist in a record at all. So when they do die, or when there are factory fires, or when they're injured or burned or lose limbs, like these are all realities of how terrible the garment industry is. There's no record of it. So the numbers aren't even really what they really are. And so what does that mean? That means that so everything that I'm talking about is in alignment with fast fashion, which is cheap clothing that we are buying most of the time without thinking about, that's on trend, and we're wearing it for a season, maybe 2, and then we're throwing it away. It's made quickly, it's made cheaply, and it's made in factories by young girls in terrible conditions. And so, like, when you think about it, like, that to me, there's a lot that I care about surrounding this conversation, but that to me is like, that's a tough pill to swallow. Like, yeah. And I'm not saying, there's a lot to care about now and there's a lot of awareness, but when you think about, I'm really starting to gravitate towards buying clothing that's well made, that I can wear for the long haul. For example, in my most recent post, I talked about Everlane. They have a lot of transparency when it comes to their factories. And of course, we know this is true for Noonday. Noonday partners with people that they know, real humans that have real lives, that Noonday ambassadors go and visit. This is the jewelry and accessories company that I'm an ambassador for. I'm really just starting to be like, you know what? I want to have more transparency when it comes to where my things are coming from.
Right.
Who's
like the question,
stuff?
like when you walk through a store, like asking yourself, who made my shirt? Who made this?
Right. Right.
And what did they, what kind of conditions did they make this in? And where am I putting my purchasing power? Am I empowering people that basically enslave young girls, or am I going to empower companies that are trying to be more ethical in the way that they're producing their clothing? And that's like another like huge conversation. Yeah. But definitely
that's a conversation for another time.
Right. But going into, I think, trying to change your mindset and going into like, who made my shirt? Who made my clothes? Like, I think that's a really good like question to ask yourself. Yeah.
And so, okay. So then, and we're kind of going to end it with that third point, so I'm going to leave you with this thought. When you ask yourself, when you have all that information, you know all these terrible statistics, what can I do? You can buy things that are not necessarily like top of the line, the $50 t-shirt, but you can buy things and you can wear them for a long time. You can take care of them. You can maintain them, because the less you buy, that's still, if you're not buying fast fashion, if you're not buying up Forever 21 at H&M and Target, you're using your purchasing power for good. So we'll circle back to that, but just kind of food for thought. With time, we'll share more resources.
Well, that brings us to number 4, which is...
It goes into 4, right?
Yeah.
Say it again?
I was saying, that goes into our number 4.
Yeah, it goes right into 4. So I, either we can both kind of talk about this, but it kind of, I've already touched on a lot of it. One of the most easy first step things we can do when it comes to living consciously with consumerism and sustainability is taking care of what we have. I already talked about that. The lost art of repairing your clothing, meaning if something happens to it, take it to a tailor, take your shoes to a cobbler. You'd be amazed at how much you can fix and repair and give your clothing a long life and keep it out of the landfill. There's really cool, I don't know how much time we have to get into it, but there's really cool companies, like Patagonia is an old school company that he was like revolutionary in repairing. Like you can send your, and I'm sure there's other companies like this, you can send your garments back and they'll repair them for free, like because they have a very environmentally conscious company. Like, so just kind of thinking along those lines of like, you know, not necessarily tossing it just because it's broken. And then the second part of that is taking care of your clothes well. Like I try and always launder or dry clean my clothes and like take care of them the way that the label says to make them last longer. That's another facet of taking care of your stuff. So anything to add there?
Right. And yeah, just not throwing away things as soon as I have a pair of shoes that they're vintage shoes, vintage loafers, and the sole's coming off, and I still bought them for like $250, but I'm going to take them to a cobbler, just going to reattach the sole, like, and that's
right.
Not only is it going to save me a lot of money, but it's also like giving those shoes a second life, or maybe a third or fourth, or however,
right.
You know, they're like from the 70s.
Yeah.
But anyways, that kind of like brings me into our last and final point. And this is something that I am totally a newbie at. Like thrifting, very organized person. Like I've been a person that like really can't even shop sales like in person very often, because when bins of things are like disorganized, it really like my mind just goes crazy and I can't focus. So I've really kind of avoided thrifting or vintage shopping, but I have a new friend here in DC that is really inspiring me. If you didn't catch our stories, it's still up. She took us on a little thrifting adventure and taught us how to dress up for going out from Salvation Army. And she pretty much doesn't buy anything firsthand. She buys everything second. The easy way to be environmentally conscious and embrace slow fashion, which is to give those items a second life by bringing them home with you. So, you know, taking that wish list. So like, I'll just give you an example. I have 2 things on my wish list right now, which is like a herringbone type of blazer. I want a little oversized, and a leather jacket. And it may take some time to like find those things, but I've decided that I'm going to try and find those things secondhand. And the quality is going to be amazing buying something from the 50s, 60s, or 70s, you know, instead of buying something from, you know, Zara right now. And it's just it's an easy way, and you can use companies like ThredUp, you can go to Poshmark, you can look on eBay. It's just another thing, like, and it's not that overwhelming if you're working off a wish list. Like, how overwhelming is it to be like, oh, my white button
what you're
down,
looking for.
Right, like my white button down has, you know, deodorant stains and I can't get them out anymore. That happens to white clothes. And so instead of going to the Gap and buying another white button down, like go to a secondhand store. Like there are things in secondhand stores, and Sarah showed it to us yesterday, that have never been worn. I mean,
I know.
Don't have a mark on them, have tags still on them. So I think that is another thing that we could embrace. And I think, like, just to reiterate before we close, like, we are totally newbies at this. Like, we are not, we are dipping our toes in the water here. We're learning as we go. And we just, you know, we felt strongly about sharing this and kind of sharing our passions and like where we're thinking about taking this account. This is not, we are dipping our toes in the water here. We're learning as we go, and we just, you know, felt strongly about sharing this and kind of sharing our passions and like where we're thinking about taking this account.
Yep. Yep. And I want to close with, because this is something I missed earlier, and I do want to share this because it's really very interesting. That just for a reference point, 32 billion garments, 32 billion, are created for the US, because we just love, buy, and 65% of them end up in landfills. That's a lot. That's a huge percentage. And something else I did not know before doing research for this live is that the textile waste, there's tons of chemicals and water that goes into everything that it takes to make clothing. Textile waste makes fashion the second most polluting industry in the world. Like, that's, to me, I knew it was a high polluting industry, but I didn't know it was the second most in the world. So
yeah, that's
all
stunning.
Of that to say,
that's stunning.
That's it. It really is. So all of that to say, like, it's not about guilt. It's not about, hit the brakes and don't do anything. It's not about feeling bad or shame, but it's just about, like, when you start to think about it, just the awareness makes you think differently. So that kind of goes back to the number one, evaluating what you have, consuming less, buying better so you can keep longer, repairing so you keep it out of the landfill. It's all connected. It's all connected. And
absolutely.
And hope. Yeah. So that, and so I hope if everyone, if likes what we've got, what we're going with this, we might do another live and dig a little deeper and maybe pick one subject and kind of break it down.
Just to like close it out again, it's like there are like three main parts of going down this path away from fast fashion. Number one, and I think probably the most important to us, is being ethically minded and aware when it comes to fashion. Number two is the sustainability. And then number three is like going down the figuring out how to become like slow fashion instead of fast fashion. And so I think all those things we'll try to cover, at some point as we learn more and we feel comfortable sharing things that we learned or what we're doing, we'll share that in our journey. And, hopefully just like we learned from people like Carla and people like Kate and your friend, the Sustainably Chic girl, like there are great accounts out there that are way further along than us. And we're just trying to use like our little realm of influence here on Instagram for good and to promote awareness about things that we care about. So
yeah, for sure. Well, this was fun and we'll do it again.
All right. See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.